Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me to talk about Bobby Brown III, the defensive tackle out of Texas A&M, is the football encyclopedia himself, Mr. Vincent Turner. What's going on, Mr. Turner?
How you doing this morning, my man?
Hey, doing great.
Matter of fact, you need to give yourself some kudos.
Yes,
And
sir.
I'm going to say this to 100 Yards of Football before we get started this morning. I'm going to keep it very short and sweet. This young man has took me to dreams I never really imagined in the 2.5 years I've been with him. Look at his work. I compare his work, the graphics, just able to produce a show to anybody out there in the world. And I'm talking about ESPN. I'm talking about Fox. I'm talking about anybody. This young man has put me in an area that I never could dream of, and I'm very blessed. Jeremiah Long is the man. Now we can get started, my brother.
Well, I totally appreciate you. And I just want to give a shout out to you too, Mr. Turner, for killing it. And also just like to give a shout out to our audience. Thank you guys so much for watching each and every week. Every show that we bring you, we're getting more and more comments, more and more follows, more and more likes. So I would just like to personally ask you, if you're watching this video right now, to make sure to like and subscribe to our video. And if you're interested in a podcast, make sure that you go over and listen to our podcast over as well over on 100 Yards of Football's Spotify, Apple podcast page, or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Well, without further ado, let's get to Bobby Brown III. And Mr. Vincent Turner, tell us, who do you think is going to draft him? What do you think are his chances of in the draft? What are his strengths and everything about Bobby Brown III out of Texas A&M?
I'm going to start with Mr. Bobby Brown III, and not the entertainer, but his skill level on the football field is similar to what that young man did back in the late 80s. Bobby Brown III, to me, is the most underrated defensive tackle in the draft. Now, his first 2 seasons at Texas A&M, he didn't really play to his potential. But in 2020, he took the game to another level. What I like about the young man, I'm going to give him my grade report on him. Great mass. I think he's got the best body of all the players in the National Football League in the 2021 NFL draft. A+ with that. His strength, A+. His size, A+. Gobble up space, which a defensive tackle should do, A+. Lower body strength, A+. Gaining penetration, A+. This young man has the potential of being a star at the next level. I know he didn't play very well, like I just mentioned, his first 2 years at Texas A&M, but boy, he turned it on his senior season. First team all SEC. Can you feel me? Amen. Look at his stats in 9 games, 22 tackles, 7.5 tackles for losses, 5.5 sacks. You know what he was doing? He was getting biz, as we say, down in the 901. He was doing some serious eating. But what I like about him most of all, he's a guy that's got a lot of ability, and he's a guy who can rush the pass. And we didn't see that in his first 2 seasons at Texas A&M. Then I'm going to tell you, if you think I'm lying, go to the game film this year in 2020 against Florida. 3 tackles. He had a sack for 6-yard loss. He was an impact player. Then go against South Carolina. Look at the game film there. He had 2 sacks, but he created havoc all day. And you know what? That Texas A&M defense held South Carolina to 150 yards total offense. Then finally, against LSU, this when it came apart. This is when he really took it to another level. 3 tackles, 1.5 tackles for losses, 1 sack. And then it's when everybody in the NFL started saying, hey, that's what we love about this young man out of Arlington, Texas, who came highly commended to Texas A&M. Then you're looking at Mr. Bobby Brown III. Man, with his size, he reminds me of Sean Rogers. He came out of University of Texas in 2001. They had a great career with Detroit Lions. Then he got a lot of Sean Robinson out of the University of Alabama that came out a couple of years ago that's been a stud in the league. Then that young man out of Louisiana Tech, Vernon Butler, who did his thing in Carolina, same size, same ability. Then it reminds me, this is for the dogs, go dogs, Jeff Owens, who's a pretty good nose tackle at the University of Georgia. They got drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. Didn't remind me of the big man, Mr. Gabe Watson, that came out of the University of Michigan. But I know a lot of people are going to question me when I say this. I see a lot of this young man, he being out of the state of Texas, but I think he's got the ability of a guy that came in the 69 draft, who's the first overall pick, who changed that organization to black and gold out of Temple, Texas, Mr. Joe Green. I see Mr. Bobby Butler having some of those traits. Now, I don't want nobody to go ballistic here on the board today, But I'm saying this young man has got that type of skill level. And you know, in the National Football League, Jeremiah, we could talk about it's Mr. Bobby Butler, our great analysis that joins me every evening on Monday evening, former Falcon great, Florida State great. He always says this: we can get toys all day with
Yes.
the quarterback, with the receiver, with the running backs. But this great game of football is won at the line of scrimmage. And you got to have them Rambos in the line of scrimmage. And Mr. Bobby Brown III is that Rambo. And finally, with the young man, I think a perfect fit for him would be locally here with the Atlanta Falcons. Think about this. Same kind of scenario in the 2015 draft. Nobody was talking about the young man right down the road in Conyers, Georgia, by way of Clemson University. And Grady Jarrett, the Falcons took him. And you saw his career is kind of progress. One of the top 5 D tackles in the game. Bobby Brown, now everybody is starting to see, hey, this guy can be the next Grady Jarrett as was in 2015. And most of all, we talk about pro numbers, we talk about combine numbers, we talk about pro day. The young man tipped in at 321. The young man ran a 4.9 40-yard dash. The young man had a 33-inch vertical. And the young man had a 9.5 broad jump. This is a football player. And as we say in the neighborhood, he is swole.
Yeah.
And 21 years old. So I love the young man, Mr. Bobby Brown III, defensive tackle out of Texas A&M, and Jimbo Fisher. You finally coached him up this year, and I think the young man is going to be Rambo at the next level.
Well, I was looking at some photos of Mr. Brown, and this is a beast of a man. I encourage anyone watching that if you're interested in his draft prospect to go and look at some photos of him standing beside sports commentators, standing beside the other players. He is a hulking beast of a gentleman. And just like Mr. Turner was talking about, man, where we come from, that dude is swole. Like, swole. And yeah, and so I definitely feel like that's going to be huge. So what are your final words on Bobby Brown III?
My final words on Bobby Brown III, this is going to be a complete football player at the next level. I think whatever team drafts him, I think it's going to be productive, and I think his potential is scary. But think about this. In the National Football League, Joe Green came, and the Pittsburgh Steelers changed on the D-line. My man, L.C. Greenwood, Dwight White, and Ernie Holmes. The Seattle Seahawks changed in 2013 with Tony McDaniel, Red Bryant, Chris Clemens, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill. See, the game is very simple. You win on the line of scrimmage. If you got an outstanding offensive line, ask Tom Brady, and you see what happened in this past Super Bowl. They were able to protect them. If you got a great defensive line, you can do a lot of things and go a long way in the playoffs. This young man could be a game changer, whatever team drafts him on the D-line. And I see him as a good fit with the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not going to tell you no lie. We live here locally, but I think throughout the years, the Falcons have had problems putting the guy next to Grady Jarrett. You put this young man, now you got a new regime with Arthur Smith, Ted Fontenot. Y'all talking about drafting good football players. This young man right here, hey, I think at the next level, it's going to be a guy that can be real good and really dominate the line of scrimmage. And my final words, Bobby Brown. I'm not talking about the entertainer. I'm talking about the football player. But I'm going to get back to the entertainer. He had a song. It was his first single, Don't Be Cruel. Well, I think this gentleman right here, when he gets to the NFL in 2021, he's going to be cruel on a lot of offensive tackles at the next level. And today, I want to pay homage to the greatest fraternity in the world, Phi Beta Sigma, 1914, January. 3 great young men that started this great fraternity that I became a part of in 1980. A. Langston Taylor, Charles I. Brown, Leonard F. Morris, and to my brothers of Phi Beta Sigma.
Yes. Hey, well, if you like the video, then please make sure you like, share, and comment. follow our pages. And if you listen to podcasts, make sure you jump over and listen to our podcast over at 100 Yards of Football on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or try your Google Home device or any other home device. Just say, hey, please play 100 Yards of Football podcast, and it'll pull it up immediately. So for the whole team here at 100 Yards of Football, I'm the producer, Jeremiah Long, and you've been listening to Vincent Turner bring us this incredible draft profile for Bobby Brown III out of the University out of the University of Texas A&M. Sorry, I lost my tab for a second there. Out of the University of Texas A&M, and we just want to know, are there any other draft profiles that you would like to see? Are there any other players that you'd like to see us cover? Because guess what? That's what we do here at 100 Yards of Football. We bring you incredible draft prospects. And if you've missed any of our draft prospect videos, make sure to go back to our YouTube or to our Facebook page and jump in there and watch every single one of them. There's some incredible profiles between Mr. Turner over here, Mr. Landers, and our other great team members. So for the entire team here at 100 Yards of Football, I'm Jeremiah, and this has been Vincent Turner bringing you our draft profile for Bobby Brown III, and we'll see you on the next video.